Ajahn Chah, and so it was very obvious that I wanted to go and see the place, visit. But altogether, it was maybe still quite a long time, a year or more than a year, that I was exploring various places, and I was also inspired by the Zen tradition. So I decided to go to Japan and try the Zen tradition. And along that time also there was a more and more of an inclination to take monastic life. So it was also consideration of where would be good to take life as a monk, which and still traveling and visiting and staying in places, and going back home, and then going back to Japan, already like leaving home with the clear direction of taking monastic life, but going first to Japan, to some monastery I was recommended of, and spending about half a year there, and then later another 2 or 3 places. And then that experience made me decide, gave me the conclusion of wanting to come back to Wat Nanacha, to take the monastic life in the forest tradition, Ajahn Chah community. So that's how I ended up there. So it wasn't so much a choice of Thailand, but it was the experience of the life in a forest monastery, and the inspiration of Ajahn Chah and some other like Ajahn Mahabua. And also it was living in Japan gave me a very clear understanding of how Thailand is still a very, very strong Buddhist culture, while a place like Japan, that used to be a very prosperous Buddhist country with lots of monasteries, and but these days it's already quite a kind of a disappearing, dying, while in Thailand it is very much alive. So I could see quite a bit of a difference. And then also the monastic life that is still following Vinaya, compared to monastic life that is not anymore. Also, I could see a very big difference. But it was everything was still very kind of young in terms of understanding things. But somehow that was the decision. And looking back on it, it's there's certainly no regret, or if at the beginning there were many doubts, what is right to do and where to go, and where is, we always want the best, where is the best place to settle for practicing and taking monastic life. So now, after many years, I feel very very happy with the choices I took. Not every choice, of course, but in terms of the bigger picture of joining this community of Ajahn Chah, and ordaining in Wat Nanachat, and also having a fortune to ordain with Lumpo Liem as a preceptor, as a teacher. It's a great fortune. And although people may think what a strange thing it is to be born in a Western country, or as a Jewish and these kind of conditions, and then to end up as a Buddhist monk, for me personally it was actually very much as a feeling natural, not some kind of a, how we call it, a revolution, or it just and in many ways coming to meet the Buddha Dhamma Sangha felt like coming back home, like a place that I really feel at home, while the culture I was growing with also felt at home in some ways, but not on a deeper kind of a dimension. So it can be like that, and if one takes in consideration the understanding of karma and rebirth and such things, then of course we may have been the kind of connections and conditions that we acquired and relations that we acquired in past time can of course affect us in this lifetime, and what is appearing on the surface is just surface, and there's much more than that underneath. So of course there is some reason why we are born in such and such a place, but also there can be connections and kind of links to other places, other people. So these days, coming back to the fact that the world is kind of a smaller place, we can take advantage of that in terms of finding our home, can call it. And then, as we see these days, one can find a spiritual home within the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, the Buddhist community, or if we want, we can call it a Buddhist religion, and then go back home to one's roots in this life, or maybe roots in terms of culture and so forth, and bring things together. So and that's the way that the Buddha Dhamma Sangha can spread in other cultures, in other places in the world. And as we see here, like India, which is the birthplace, the culture that the Buddha was born at, and but also a very maybe a culture that went through many changes and many a long path, a long history, then can bring back these teaching, these past, this heritage. Also back to this country. In some ways it's easier here than in a Western culture, because Indian culture is having the roots. Although difficult, easy, there's always many angles on it. But for example, just the customs or the practice of paying homage bowing to Buddha Dhamma Sangha in a Jewish culture, it's a very challenging one, because it's like in the Bible not to bow, not to whatever we call it, like bowing to statues or to is considered a very not good thing to do, not suitable. So there can be quite a bit of resistance to it. Of course, if we consider the meaning of it, what's behind it, then it's not how we call it, idol worship, but rather homage, respect, giving oneself as a gesture of oneself as a disciple, as somebody who is willing to listen, to change, to give respect. Many beautiful things, but sometimes we have cultural conditionings, and it creates like a barrier that is more difficult to cross. Or even like the life of renunciation, monastic life. I guess in India it's like an ancient tradition of more of understanding and respect for it. The sadhu and different and in Western culture, for the most part, it's like there's no nature respect or understanding of it, so it takes more work to explain, to see the value of it, to appreciate it.
Venerable Ajahn, good evening. Could I ask you one question, please?
Yes.
Ajahn, we all know that that's fine. We all know that rebirth is because of ignorance, and we practice Buddhism to see through this ignorance. And we know that the way out of this cycle is, and the way to dependent cessation is actually breaking this cycle, looking through this delusion. I would just like to ask you as to how do you think a layman should be practicing in a daily life to see through this web of delusion, because we are often overwhelmed by the circumstances. And though in theory we do understand Buddhism and we are practicing to whatever extent we can, but we are not totally able to break this web of delusion. And so I guess we continue in that cycle of dependent origination. So what would be your advice on this? Thank you.
Of course, it's a big question, relates to many things. I think it's a very important task to take the teachings and not just as like beautiful and convincing theory and ideals, but to take it and really reflect on it, internalize it, investigate it, and of course, little by little, bring it inwardly through practice, so that gradually it's we understand, we really begin to understand the meaning of it and the significance of it in a personal way, as for us. And so one way you can talk about it is like, first we have to see where we're at. So the Buddha is giving a map, a big map, and we have to learn, to see, to understand where are we standing, in this lifetime, in this particular person that we are. So that we are not trying to practice through ideals. The Buddha says that craving is not good, and ignorance is terrible, and but to really see where we're at, what are our desires, what are our ways of, or let's say, place in the world, what are we engaging with, what are our wishes and responsibilities and so forth, and little by little investigate and consider and learn what are these. And that's actually, it's not obvious. That's a part of the meditation where we actually learn ourselves more clearly, more thoroughly. Who is this person? What are these emotions? What are these maybe motivations that motivate us to do things? What are our maybe dreams? What would be my dream of life? And who are the important people for us? What kind of views we have about things? Many things, to actually see the reality of it. And then gradually to consider what's going on there, and is it in line with truth? Is it in line with what is beneficial? What would be a beginning with steps to a life of progress, of development, of a life of the benefit for oneself, the benefit of others. So little by little, from knowing more clearly who we are, what is going on with us internally, and also like the environment that we live in, because each one has got like a different you can say field of who are the important people for us, what are the important issues in our life, and so forth. And then from that, seeing what is the delusion there in terms of our views, our wants and desires, and so forth, and little by little doing kind of changes, adjustments in our life. And it's both internally, the way that we think about things, the way that we direct our energies of care and devotion and responsibility and so forth. So it's like, and then the actions, of course, that comes, like what kind of tasks and duties and undertakings we will take. Of course, if we are young, then we still have many choices. Where we're going to study something, what kind of profession, where are we going to live. Maybe when we're older, we already settled in a certain life, but even within that, we can consider how do we spend the time, how do we relate to various issues of health and family and livelihood and so forth. So little by little, bringing the Dhamma into our life by investigating actually what's going on there, seeing more clearly and looking and understanding, and then taking the teaching of the wise. We consider the Buddha as the wise of wise, or it can be some other teachers and teachings, and then beginning to work with that. So, which is, of course, some challenge, because we are already quite often, we have many attachments in regard to what our pleasures, our views, the people that we are living with, and then little by little considering what is what. Is this kind of a relationship is good, or we can do some changes? If this kind of hobby is beneficial, or we can give it up and spend our time in a different way. Whether we have material resources, how are we going to use them? Everything becomes a part of a inquiry and a possibility of change. Yeah, not a revolution, but little changes. And then it's a very much of personal responsibility and personal project to begin and look and learn, and then see what we can do. Yeah. And it is quite possible, whether one lives a family life, household life, but in terms of the little steps that we can do, that's it's a gradual path. Yeah, gradual path. And we are, each one of us is different in terms of how we can do it. What will be the way that we apply the teachings, and how can we discover the let's say the ignorance that is lying within us, and little by little bring wisdom in there, bring views and a vision that is more in line with truth, in line with what is beneficial. So little steps. Yeah. And even the matter of a future life or rebirth, then indeed, if it becomes an issue that we consider, it's already quite extraordinary. Most people don't think in these ways. We often have a very short vision. Yeah, we look very very short sight, and then to have a vision that is looking further is also a gradual change, where actually, we look at things in that way, and it becomes for us more and more kind of meaningless to be so engrossed in short-term kind of a how we call it, short-term goals. Yeah. Or of course we may have all kinds of goals that we fulfill, or tasks, but we become more interested in a long-term kind of or a bigger vision in what we're doing, and then gradually it becomes like things are we put them together in terms of the little actions that we do. What's their meaning in terms of a short term, in terms of long term? And one can say, for example, meditation practice is like investment. Yeah, at the beginning maybe we don't quite get what's the point, and it's difficult, and it takes. But if we see it as an investment for the benefit that is a long term benefit, not a short term benefit, then maybe we're willing to give up the kind of certain pleasures, hobbies, or whatever things that we could do that are gratifying more instantly, more easily, but we are investing in something that will give that has a meaning and benefit for a longer term. But it has to happen like little by little. And it's not like being hurried, like in a hurry, because the Buddha says that, it's like this and like that, and we have to learn ourselves, and sometimes maybe in this lifetime we can do that much, but what's important is that we're really doing something, and we're doing what is the we can call it the responsibility, or what is the type of work and effort and dedication that we can do. Not too much, not trying to be more than we are, but also not less than that. And that's a part of also knowing ourselves. And sometimes when we become stronger because we do practice and we do make effort, then also we discover more potential for ourselves. But sometimes we may discover some serious obstacles, and that's fine if we know, okay, so we have to work with certain obstacles, difficulties, and maybe that's our task in this lifetime, to work with these things. We may also have doubts whether, rebirth is like this or like that, in this religion, in that, they say. So that's also fine. To clarify doubts is a part of the path. The Buddha is not asking us to believe everything and to say, yes, sadhu, 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 all true, all right, all good, but to take it, to investigate, to practice, And possibly the more we see that the worldly aims and values and pleasures and achievements are of no real essence and value in terms of a deeper and bigger vision, then we put them in the perspective of some things that we can do and appropriate for us, but spiritual development and the path of Dhamma becomes our priority over these, and that's also a way of clarifying priorities. So we may have some talents or some things that we can do for like in terms of ordinary benefit, but any kind of ordinary benefit also can have a Dhamma value to it, in the way that we do it, in the way that it is supporting human beings for some life of a good quality, of a good direction. If it's like the human world, if there's no some kind of a Dhamma there for human beings to be humans, then indeed it's useless. And actually, whatever we do, whether it's our family life, our daily responsibilities, work, and so forth, can be a way of doing whatever we do and taking whatever we undertakings with more wisdom and less ignorance and confusion and delusion, and So it's all, and then it's all can be a part of our path of practice. And if it's going to be in that way, it will also make our life lighter, not heavier. Yeah, lighter, because we do things with more balance, with more clarity of what's the purpose, what's the point, and also with a important aspect of clarity where we don't want to increase craving, attachment, grasping, identifying with things. So we do them for the sake of the benefit of them, whether it's the family, the friends, the society around, one's profession, one's but the sense of heaviness can gradually decrease, and the ability to be adaptable. Yeah, if something is good, we can do it. If it doesn't work, we can give it up. If somebody is listening, we can talk. If not listening, we can also let them be. Or some problems we can solve. Some problems we have to accept that it's the way it is. Some things are our responsibility to engage with. Some things we can put aside. And even the Buddha didn't fix the world, so surely we will not do it. But the Buddha gave much benefit for the world, and we can give some benefit. So if things become more clear, then also it should be in the way of lightness, not heaviness. And even if we can be very diligent, and it's not like being lazy and being careless, we can have a lot of care for doing what we can do, and we can be also very diligent in creating or living for the sake of benefit, not just for the sake of a easy life and lazy life. And but we do it in a way that is skillful, with wisdom, with understanding what we can do, what is within our sphere of responsibility and ability. So it's important, and that will be a good example, because sometimes good people also become stressed out or burnt out, or because there's not maybe enough wisdom in balancing and knowing what to take on, what not to take on, and So I think for today, just a little talk, and we have continuity tomorrow. You will translate a bit, or today it's you will. Okay, maybe we finish with a chant. Maybe Andamayam samvapati janagatayo Dhammārāma Punyasiddhani katasayanam yani katamine desam cahapino hontu satananda pamanaka. May whatever living beings, without measure, without end, partake of all the merit from the good deeds I have done. Ye viya gunavanta jamayamata pitadayo dikame jagayandikawa those are then full of goodness, my mother and my father dear, beings seen by me and those unseen, those neutral and others, Satta vihanti lokasamin te bhuma jatuyonika. Kanje kajatu mohara samsaranta bhavave. He is established in the world from the three planes and four grounds of earth, with five aggregates of one of four, wandering on from realm to realm. Nyātam nirpatītānam me anumodam tu te sayam ye jīmam nāpajananti deva te sammivedayo. Those who know my act of dedication, may they all rejoice in me, and as for those yet unaware, may the devas let them know. Maya vinnana punyanam anumodana hetuna sabbe satta sada hontu alera sukha jivino kema padam japa sasijjanam sukha. By rejoicing in my sharing, may all beings live at peace, in freedom from hostility. May their good wishes be fulfilled, and may they all be safety.
on hands and pay respects to Ajahn.